Greetings and welcome to IT SPARC Cast Top 10. I'm your host, John Barger.
And I'm your host, Lou Schmidt. Let's get to the countdown.
In IT SPARC Cast Top 10, we go through the top 10 things, events, or people in a specific category. We then give you the details that you might not know with insights, opinions, and a little sarcasm from two experts, each with over 20 years of experience working in IT or for IT vendors.
And we really enjoy making these because we get to do a ton of research. This is the Rogues Gallery, and it is fascinating.
That's right, because in today's episode, we're counting down the top 10 most notorious hackers or hacker groups that got away with their crimes. And there's a lot of bad boys and girls on this list.
Dun,
Today,
dun, dun.
And today we've listed these hackers from least impactful to most impactful from the standpoint of financial loss, data exposure, or government impact. So let's get right to it. So number 10 is Andrew Auernheimer, also known as Weev, W-E-E-V, for those paying attention at home. So he's from the US. He's associated with the hacker group known as Goatsy Security. And if all of you that know what that is, don't look it up on a work computer. So he's known for trolling. He's known for internet activism. And he was later associated with far right-wing movements. His first known hack was in 2010, where he exposed a flaw in AT&T's iPad user API that led to 114,000 email addresses being leaked out.
Woof.
His most impactful hack was that iPad leak, and he made international headlines, raised awareness for weak mobile security. His most recent activity was that he had a conviction that was overturned in 2014. He then moved overseas and began publishing extremist content. From a legal standpoint, he's not actively being pursued right now, but he is controversial for his political extremism. He's believed to be in Eastern Europe or Russia, and he maintains an online presence in fringe circles.
Yeah, so there's an individual that's out there. If we did not mispronounce your name to get hacked, thank you.
Please leave us alone.
That's why you don't see a lot of lists like this. These are
Right.
the folks that haven't been found. Let's talk about number 9. Number 9 is Mafiaboy, otherwise known as Michael Calce. That's C-A-L-C-E. I think I got that right. And he is originally from Montreal, Canada. Acted alone as a teenager under the alias Mafiaboy. So, first known hack is in the year 2000. DDoS attacks on Yahoo. DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service Attacks, if you're not familiar with the term. That took down the site for several hours. Now, in 2000, Yahoo was a pretty big deal and a big site, a lot of traffic in there. So generating enough distributed traffic to take down a site of that magnitude was a pretty major achievement. So the most impactful hack that was executed, coordinated attacks also at eBay, CNN, Amazon, and Dell, causing panic and an estimated $1.7 billion in losses. So that's some fairly major monetary impact. After being arrested and serving 8 months in youth detention, which tells you how old he was when this happened, reemerged as a security advocate, served a sentence, no active warrant to investigation, living in Canada, now works in cybersecurity and public speaking. So, a little discussion. Did you think this guy got away with it, really? And I'm going to go on the side of yes, because this individual caused $1.7 billion in losses. Now, we don't know how they calculated those numbers, but got 8 months of youth detention. I would consider that getting away with that. If I had done that, or you had done that, they would still be shipping us daylight via pack train. And the fact is they're living in Colorado and now kind of works in cybersecurity and public speaking. That's great, but they definitely got away with it.
100%.
So let's talk about number 8.
Yep. So number 8 is the Egregor ransomware group. These are believed to be a spin-off of the Maze ransomware group from Eastern Europe or Russia. They're very short-lived. They were first seen in 2020, specifically in September of 2020, and they were known for attacking various logistics and manufacturing firms. So in late 2020, they attacked game companies like Ubisoft, Crytek, as well as Barnes and Noble. And their combined data theft and ransomware with leaked sites for extortions. They were active through just early 2021, so they weren't active very long. And then they dropped off after French and Ukrainian law enforcement arrested a few minor members of the group. But the main core members are still out in the wild and were never arrested. So that's why they got away with it. They are presumed to have rebranded, and the original members are possibly part of a newer ransomware group, or maybe they branched out to different groups and each one running their own. And it's possible that they're actually running ransomware as a service outfits where they're selling off the ransomware to other groups. And that's of good likelihood of what they're doing today.
Absolutely. Still out there, right? But the money's to be made in selling shovels, not in mining the gold.
That's right. That's right. And that's another opportunity for us to do a deep dive is on the whole ransomware business, because it is a business, and the reason that it keeps happening is people keep paying the ransomware. And I've known multiple people that have worked for different companies that have paid the ransomware in order just to get their data back. So I think that would be a great deep dive for us.
Actually, it's more common than not, and they won't report it to law enforcement. So it's a real challenge in actually securing and stopping these folks, is because the fastest way to get your system back online is to pay the ransom. But there's also issues with that. So let's talk about number 7. Number 7 is Phineas Fisher. It's an anonymous hacker or a small collective, we don't know, anti-capitalist hacktivist motives. In 2014, the first known hack, they breached a UK-based Gamma Group, maker of Fisher spyware. So they went after somebody else's spyware. The most impactful hack that we know of with them is 2015, hacking team Italy leaking 400 gig of internal documents revealing spyware sales to oppressive regimes. So these guys seem more like a Robin Hood type thing than motivated by money. 2019, they claim responsibility for the hack of a bank in the Cayman Islands, offered a bounty for anti-capitalist hacks. The legal status is they're still unidentified. Interpol and global agencies are very interested. Once again, you want to get people to take you down, touch the money, right? Now, and the whereabouts are unknown. They're speculated to be in Europe or Latin America. It is sort of wildly ironic that the network they depend on to penetrate people was only made possible by capitalists. So, make of that one what you will, but that is certainly the case, right? You, having lived on the regulated monopoly side and the unregulated side, our communication system we have today would not be possible if it had been lowest common denominator regulated internationally. And folks are continuously trying to do this. So it's interesting what these folks are doing. Their big thorn in the side appears to be anti-capitalism. And unfortunately, as much as capitalism sucks, from my point of view, it sucks the least. Your mileage may vary. So why don't you bring us up to number 6?
So number 6 is Fin7, also known as the Carbanak Group. So these are based out of Eastern Europe, specifically out of the Ukraine and Russia. I don't know how well they're working together today, but that's where they were based back in 2015. And this is a financially motivated group. So they were, in 2015, they were targeting U.S. restaurants and retailers through spear phishing. So very targeted phishing over email and other forms. They stole over 15 million payment cards from companies like Chipotle, Arby's, and Saks Fifth Avenue. They were active as late as 2022 and believed to have launched the ALPHV ransomware under new branding. Several members were arrested in 2018, but the core leaders remain at large. So again, while some of the lower players did get arrested. The core members are still at large, and that's why we're saying that they got away with it. And they are likely still in Russia. They are still active, and they are beyond extradition reach for obvious reasons in today's political spectrum. 15 million payment card records. That's quite a bit of data that they got out of though.
You know something, I'm wondering just how much benefit there would be to filtering all traffic from Russia.
My firewall does that.
Yeah, so does mine. But, you know, having said that, then what they'll do is they'll go in and exploit a machine that's in a geographical region you're not blocking.
Yeah, that's not real hard to do.
Yeah, it's whack-a-mole is the order of the day.
Yeah. VPNs are pretty easy to come by. Yeah. So
I would tell you about number 5, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I don't know who they are either.
Are you ready for this one? This one's great. Got to give them kudos for the name, right? Number 5 is Anonymous, right? And their origin is a global collective that emerged from 4chan, the den of iniquity, in the mid-2000s, right? The first known hack is in 2008, they did a distributed denial of service attack on the Church of Scientology. Okay. Was that bad? All right, now I got 2 people.
We stay away from those conversations.
We try to stay away from those conversations. Thank you. The most impactful hack they did was in 2011 and 2012. They did attacks on Sony, PayPal, FBI, and global government targets. And they supported the Arab Spring and the Occupy movement. So there's obviously an ideological motivation for this group. The last known activity is their periodic reappearances in anti-Russian war messages, 2022, anti-ISIS ops, and political activism. The legal status right now is many loosely affiliated, difficult to identify core participant. Some members have been arrested and many are unknown. It's global, it's decentralized, and it's partially active under various banners. So these things operate in cellular fashion, which is very common in this type of operation. If you want to make sure that even if parts of it are compromised, other parts of it will keep going. But this certainly appears to have an ideological bent. I didn't see anything in here about them really pushing for a financial gain, whereas most of your hardcore groups are doing that. Does that make them good guys? Depends on whether you agree with their cause.
Right.
So
and they seem to be pretty widespread. So even if you agree with some of the things, you probably don't agree with everything. But
yeah, I mean that's a tough one. Why don't you take
definitely the most famous on the group on the list, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, well, that's the anonymous.
Famous and
right?
not famous, I guess, being anonymous, right?
Famous for not knowing who you are. I mean, that is quite the thing. Why don't you talk about number 4, which is definitely appears to be much more focused.
Absolutely. So number 4 is the DarkSide ransomware group. Again, another Russian-based group operating ransomware as a service, and with ties to another group called either REvil or REvil. It's capital R, capital E, VIL. They've been active since late 2020, and they've attacked smaller businesses in their early campaigns. And then in 2021, they shut down the Colonial Pipeline, disrupting fuel supplies in the U.S. East Coast, and that generated $4.4 million in ransomware payments. So that
I was impacted by that. Okay, I shouldn't say it that way. As per our pre-show discussion, I was impacted in the respect that my car was one of the few that was still working. We literally ran out of gas in the high country. But I have a Tesla. So I have a Model 3, and I've had it for quite some time. The surreal thing was driving around town and being one of the few people driving around town.
Yeah. Oh, at that point, you had 2 vehicles. You had an ICE vehicle and...
I had an ICE vehicle as well.
Yeah.
And so we basically didn't do as much with that, and we used the Tesla vehicle more, the electric vehicle. So what's up with these guys?
They disbanded shortly after the U.S. government started increasing the pressure on them. Their funds got got confiscated by the DOJ. So the legal status is that the FBI, the DOJ, and international agencies are actively seeking the members, but no confirmed requests at this point, especially of the ringleaders themselves. So they're believed to have rebranded under new names and have a new ransomware alias based in Russia. So that's their current status. But again, with a lot of these, when they rebrand, you don't know if it's a new group or if it's the old group because you don't know who the members are. So that's the current thinking, is that they have rebranded and have still based out of Russia.
Once again, here we are in Russia, and one of the discussions we're having via the whole challenge with Ukraine and Russia being at war is, what is it going to take for Russia to actually seriously join the international community? One of the problems we're seeing is they're not policing this.
Right.
So at the very least, you've got some level of tacit agreement by the Russian government over these activities. And that's going to cause some serious problems. So speaking of serious problems, let's walk on to number 3.
Number 3.
So once again, we mentioned it in number 4, but REvil or REvil, Sodinokibi, is a Russian ransomware gang that evolved from GandCrab affiliates. And its first known hack was in 2019, began a large-scale ransomware campaign targeting global enterprises. So folks, if you've had to go through ransomware training, you can blame these dudes, right? The most impactful hack is in 2021. Calce hack affected over 1,500 businesses worldwide. They demanded $70 million in ransom. So the last known activity is they went dark after U.S. pressure, and the Russian FSB reportedly raided some members, which is in early 2022. So once again, we come back to that Russia theme, right? If Russia cares about this, they can damp this thing down. But a lot of these folks end up there. Their current legal status is some members have arrested by Russia, possibly for PR. Others still believed to be at large. We don't know. And their core leadership is presumed active under other ransomware brands. So it's amazing when you start to look at these activities that are considered criminal, how much they look like corporations. You know,
absolutely.
Marketing, brands, all that stuff is still a thing. Once again, Russia pops up as the haven for this stuff.
It's been a big trend on this one. But yeah, you're right. A lot of these are actually businesses. And, and you could say that's true of a lot of, what we refer to as organized crime,
criminal enterprises.
Criminal enterprises. And they are run like businesses, and they've got bookkeeping and all those other things, and some form of even HR or whatever. And these are just a different form of that organized crime. So and it's because it works and they can make a lot of money. So they gotta keep track of all of that.
Well, let's move on to number 2.
Number 2, the shadow brokers. There's not a lot known about this group in their organization, but they are assumed to be tied to Russia intelligence, or at least some rogue insiders inside of the Russian intelligence groups. And they've had a little bit longer lifespan than some of the others that we've talked about. So their first known hack was in 2016, where they leaked NSA cyber weapons allegedly stolen from the Equation Group, which is NSA's elite hacking team. So if you're hacking into the NSA, there's some clout there. But their most impactful hack came the year later in 2017, where they leaked Eternal Blue exploit, later using WannaCry and NotPetya attacks, causing billions in global damage. So these guys really made significant impacts. Most recently, they released auction-style posts through 2018, and then that vanished. So they were actually selling off some of their knowledge and things like that, and then they ditched out. So from a legal standpoint, they are a high priority target for U.S. intelligence agencies. Obviously, if you're going to attack the NSA, that puts you squarely in their crosshairs. And so U.S. intelligence agencies are going to be looking for you at the top of their list. But they are completely unknown. They are possibly state-sponsored group. They may have inside whistleblowers, but there's nothing really known about who they are where they're based or who's actually funding them. So there's a lot of mystery there. And so because of that, they're going to be really hard to find.
And as always, when you start, there's always the possibility when you hear about a new hack or a new vulnerability being exploited that it's a state affiliated group. For example, the Salt Typhoon hack was almost certainly carried out with Chinese state assistance, because to
100%.
gain access to the protocol that you need to get into the phone system to tap calls and redirect SMS messages requires a very high level of access to that particular technology. They don't just hand out SS7 links to anyone. You have to be a vetted local exchange carrier to pull that kind of thing off. Well, the shadow brokers certainly seems like the same sort of thing. So while we hear they're completely unknown, chances are there are intelligence agencies that know who they are. And they may be letting them go to see what they can do. They may be watching them, wanting to take them out, but they can't because they're protected by a government. But that is sort of, for folks who watch us, who live in the enterprise security realm, this impacts you.
100%.
So, and on that note, let's move to number one, shall we?
Number one.
Number one is the Conti ransomware group. So the origins of this, as far as we know, is they evolved from the Ryuk and Wizard Spider, Russian-based criminal gangs. So this is actually organized crime. We were talking earlier about this being a business. This is a non-sanctioned business, right? The first known hack in 2020, they began targeting hospitals, schools, and corporations with ransomware. So usually the method of this attack is they will come in, gain entrance to your system, encrypt all your data, and then sell you the encryption key for a lot of money. It's ransomware. The way you fight this is have very, very good backup strategy and be willing to lose a certain amount of data. Also being willing to go in, freeze the system you have, find out how they got in. But these folks are really quite good at it. And their most impactful hacks is 2021 through 2022. They were estimated over $180 million in ransomware payments. So this isn't just a business, this is big business. They breached Ireland's health system, the HSE, and they crippled Ireland's hospitals. So the last known activity, it's thought that they disbanded in May 2022 after internal chat leaks exposed operations, but members are active under other names. So somebody decided, for whatever reason, to leak some of the chat activities. Perhaps honor among thieves is not what it should be, right? And that they disbanded because of it, because there was too much identifying information in there. The legal status, they've been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury, and their top priority for global law enforcement. Sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury means the United States Secret Service is looking for you.
Yeah.
That's not awesome.
No.
This is not an awesome world to be in, because the U.S. Secret Service, which for a lot of folks, foreign folks who are watching this, is run by the Treasury Department. Remember when I said don't touch the money? They have their own police department that just happens to protect the president as well. We can debate about how efficacious that is. So the whereabouts, the core members remain free in Russia, linked to new ransomware groups like Royal and Black Bastique. So the folks are out there, but once again, we're in a situation, you step foot out of Russia, hammer of God's going to come down on you.
Yep.
So
assuming we know who they are.
Yeah, well, we
probably know more than people think they know, but
yeah, that would
Right.
be, the thing is that what most folks don't understand is it's really, really difficult to erase your footprints.
Yeah.
When you're going through systems, and if somebody is sufficiently motivated to literally physically get their hands on some of the systems, they can recover files that you thought were deleted. They can recover memory locations. When you get into the white hat hacking on the hardware side, it will blow your mind at some of what they can do. And we've talked about this in some of our earlier shows. There's a great Israeli researcher who's done a ton of work on this for breaking into keyboard controllers. We learned a couple of years ago that you can go in, take RAM out of a computer, hit it, supercool it, and then read most of the data off of it. Yep. It is, if you have a lot of money and a lot of time, you can do some pretty extreme things. And the challenge with a lot of these organizations that we've talked about is they may have the money, but they are going to have a very difficult time getting physical access. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll definitely keep an eye on this. But we thought this was really interesting because it as a top 10 list, because you can look down at how, what drives these people. Absolutely. What are they doing? Are they doing it for money? If I was stuck in Russia and the economy was tanking on me, what are you going to do, right?
That's right. So that is going to cover this episode. We couldn't do podcasts like this without listeners like you. We want to hear what you think. Did we miss a famous hacker or hacker group that got away with it? Matter of fact, I'm going to guess that there's quite a few more, and we could do another full top 10 list. So we want to hear from you. Give us the names of the hacker groups you missed. By the way, we didn't mention any from China. So that, I think, is a whole nother group that we could go take a look at and do some more research on. So let us know which ones you feel that we did miss. So do you have another topic you want us to cover? Another top 10 list you want us to cover? Or any other topic you want us to do a deep dive on? Send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com. That's feedback at itsparkcast.com. Or hit us up on X at IT SPARCcast. If you're on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below. We read every single piece of feedback we get, and we respond to most. Please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That's really going to help this channel grow. If you feel that you're getting valuable information out of us and you're being entertained, tell your friends, tell your colleagues so they can get that same information as well. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Until next time, from the world of enterprise IT, take care.
Thanks for coming by.